Hey guys, this is Zane here, back at it with another episode of watching Monster House every single day this month with friends because I want them to. And I think I nailed the title that time for once in, I don't know, a blue moon. I always get it wrong. But today, I've got a friend here, and his name is Carter. If you want to do a little bit of a intro for yourself here.
Hey, my name's Carter. I am a chemical biologist that goes to school with Zane.
Yeah! What sort of things do you like to do in your free time?
Free time's a lot of gaming. Just gotta get that ranked grind in League and that kind of fun stuff. Gotta get some hiking in there too, so I don't just sit inside though.
Oh, you're up to hiking lately?
Oh yeah.
What?
Lots of hikes. Yeah, we should go hiking.
Yeah, I need to get out of the house when it's not raining.
Yeah, let's go hiking.
Okay, sick. I'm good with that idea. We're off to a great start already. I like this. All right. So, starting off, this isn't one of the questions I actually sent you, but I came up with it when I was watching the movie. So, initially, you were one of the few people that had like bad thoughts about the movie. So do you think that's changed at all since you watched it?
I was pretty firm on the it's a bad movie when you first started watching it every day. No, after watching it, it's not that bad. I've definitely seen a lot worse, and it wasn't that bad.
Okay, that's good. So your initial thoughts are not that bad?
Yeah, oh yeah, they've definitely like shifted a whole lot. Like just like the memory from being a kid, not seeing it so long, was like it shifted a lot.
Okay, perfect. That's good to hear because I'm not watching this because it's a bad movie and I'm trying to pretend that it's a good movie. I think I'd be going nuts at this point if I was this far in trying to fake that a bad movie was actually good the whole time.
Oh, yeah,
Bye, man. But nah, that one's okay. There's significantly worse movies out there. I don't think anyone's out here saying that The Room is their favorite movie or anything like that, so we're in the clear.
Oh, I hope not.
So we'll get right into some of the basic introductory questions of, so if you have any favorite characters or single favorite character and why. There's roughly like 17 or so to choose from, so at least if you can remember their names at the very least.
I was a big fan of Officer Lister.
Okay.
Because he's like the new cop and he's just trying to do his best, but you can tell he doesn't know what's going on. I just kind of liked that.
I'm glad we're nearing the end of all this, and that's the first time Officer Listers has actually been mentioned as someone's favorite character.
Hell yeah. I mean, like, I kind of like that he just threatens to shoot kids.
He's really good. He beats the whole like mall cop ideal of the other guy who's basically just a bylaw officer who's abusing his power over children.
Yeah, straight up.
And is there anyone else besides Officer Listers, or is he just like cream of the crop for you, top of the top?
I mean, like, he's top of the list, but like, I mean, Jenny's cool. Like, she was one of the only competent characters.
Yeah. Finally, someone else mentioned Jenny. There we go. We've got two new for like favorites of characters, which is great.
Boom.
I thought we would have. So far, the majority, I think, of people have said Nevercracker as their favorite, and then it's Bones, like directly after that. So.
It's a given. He's great. But Bones, really?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
mind you, Bones has like 2 votes, so.
Oh, okay.
It's not all that many, but in comparison to other characters, he's got sort of the chart. I mean, he's got some sort of appeal to him. Like, I'd be curious to know more about who Bones is as a character. I mean, he sucks, but why does he suck? Maybe he's had some horrible traumatic experiences with the kite in the house, and that's why he sucks. Yeah,
that did it.
I mean, it was a really nice kite. I can't blame him for that. So you mentioned you watched this movie as a kid, so I'm guessing probably over a decade ago.
Oh, easily, like without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
So from how you remember it, do you think it's maybe less creepy or any more creepy than before? Did you even find it creepy as a kid?
I remember it scaring me as a kid, for sure, because like I watched it pretty young, I think. I mean, like, you know, I'm an adult now, so it's
Yeah.
not that bad. I like the atmosphere because like everything about like the art style and everything like that really lended to that creepiness. But it's, you know, as a kid, yeah, it scared me. But
Yeah, and
Bad now.
yeah, it's definitely like looking at it now, it's inherently not scary in the slightest, but they nail the like dark undertones of things like pretty well, especially when it comes to lighting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, the lighting was awesome.
And one of the like main things from the art book is the movie from the first half of the movie shifts from orange and then it goes immediately into greens and purples because
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
they took all of the concept art and then reduced it just to the basic colors, and there's a slow gradient that they go from lighter to darker in the second half of the movie. So you can tell like there's a huge shift in like some kids finding out about a haunted house into like actual like sort of creepy undertoned areas. I mean, we're like older now, so it's not inherently creepy, but they do a good job at making you feel like, oh, there's actually a dead person in the house, and that's kind of unlike any other kids movie out there.
Oh yeah. No, for sure. Like it's targeted at kids, but it's like here's a skeleton.
And it's anatomically correct.
You counted the ribs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had to make sure, because I was wondering that earlier on. I'm like, I guess I should actually see if it holds up, and it does.
It's awesome.
So you mentioned with the animation and art style, do you think the animation at least holds up in any way?
The animation itself, I think it depends, because like the scenery and stuff like that really really well. The house is animated really well, but the people, it's just so jarring.
Yeah.
And like it's very very rigid and very stiff. Like all of the movements, it was like a little bit distracting. It's like I don't think that part holds up very well, but like the house was animated really well.
Yeah. The end, like a lot of I guess the issue with the characters is since the movie was motion capped and then had to be translated onto like 3D models that they based off of clay models, it doesn't quite work the same.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna ask you if it was like claymation or they like made it fully animated based on a claymation style. But
Yeah.
okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, they made clay models, but had it motion capped and then used the clay models as a basis for the character models, and then
That just
re-
sounds like
reskinned
extra
it.
steps.
yeah, but it was the first for like Sony's animation company,
Okay.
and I mean it also, if this movie was claymation, it probably would work out really well too. They nailed the look of it sort of being clay and sticking out from the rest of the environment being realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
So
I thought
it
it
is
was hard
nice.
to tell it was animated for a while.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell the movements get kind of wonky in certain places. But for a movie in 2006, trying to be one of the early movies to use motion cap in that way, I can understand a lot of the difficulties, but it still doesn't make it super easy on the eye. And then,
For sure.
like, for reference with animated movies around the time, Polar Express came out a year before, and I think Happy Feet was the same year, and Cars came out the year after, I think. So there's this weird in between there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
I
oh, sorry, you can go.
It's like comparable to Polar Express and like look,
Definitely,
as I remember.
I think my biggest issue with Polar Express is it falls in under Uncanny Valley a lot of the time.
Oh, it is creepy.
So they, at least with this one, made the humans like faces not realistic enough. Everything's like cartoony enough where it works. Might not look the best in certain places, but it works for what they're trying to go for at the very least.
No, for sure.
And then you also mentioned like the art style and the environments. What did you have any like specific parts about that stood out to you or anything?
I really liked just the entire inside of the house. Like everything like folding away was like really really well done. I really liked that. And like some of the just like the sound direction as well. It's like super awesome. Like the house breathing, but it's like sounding like a house creaking and settling was like, I really really liked that. And it stayed consistent like anytime they were inside the house. I thought that was super super cool.
Yeah, if anything of this movie, the sound design and like soundtrack are absolute slapping. They're so good.
100%.
The way they actually filmed a lot of the sound effects for the movie were they rigged up a house with a bunch of microphones and then just filmed themselves tearing the entire house down so they could get the most realistic noises of like houses breaking apart.
That is so cool.
And then they also overlaid the person that voiced constants, and they like melded her voice in with the house noises to make it sound more human and creepy. So super unique ways of doing it.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's also, I mentioned when we were watching it, like, the cast. Was there anyone that you might have been able to pick out, voice-wise?
I mean, like, most of them. I didn't know. I looked it up. I looked up the cast. I didn't know Mitchell Musso played DJ.
Yeah. This was, like, his big role.
I know. It's not. We won't before he got a DUI.
Oh, wait, he got a DUI?
Yeah, that's why he got kicked out of Disney.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes so much sense why I haven't heard from him in years. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Like, obviously, Steve Buscemi, Fred Willard, rest in peace.
Yeah.
As the dad, Kevin James. Like, they had a huge cast, which is, like, kind of weird.
Yeah, like, they got Kevin James. They got the guy that played Napoleon Dynamite to play Skull.
Yeah, like...
And even for the time, the person that voiced Jenny was in a couple movies around that time. I don't know anything that she's in these days. And then, have you seen that movie Zoom, with that like superhero movie on Disney, where they get all the kids to have superpowers? Oh, it's an awful movie. But that's the girl that voiced the tricycle girl was in that movie.
Oh.
And then I believe every single person that the director wanted to get cast for people, he managed to get without having any replacements, which is a first. Yeah. So, yeah, I already mentioned any scenes that stood out in particular to you, but when do you think this movie takes place? If you don't know already. Yeah, like, give me a time period.
The ambulance looked really old. I want to say, like, it's set in the 80s.
That's a really good guess. Because, yeah, it's apparently supposed to take place in 1983.
Oh, look at me go.
Nothing explicitly states it, but after me watching it for, I don't know, millions of times and someone bringing it up, I'm like, I never really thought about it. But Chowder plays on an Atari when it's the one scene from his house when he's on the phone.
Okay.
The draining the lake thing was a political thing from the 80s about draining the swamp.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I think that those were like the main key things. And then somewhere in the art book it just says, yeah, this is the 80s. I was like, oh, I guess that makes a lot of sense.
There you go.
And it's also the only Saturday in the 80s that Halloween fell on a weekend. So if you do the backwards research, it's either 83 or 87.
So deep, I love that.
It works. And so, do you think this could potentially be a movie that could be revisited to this day, whether it be a remake or something in the same sort of universe? Or do you think it's one of those things that is one and done, shouldn't be revisited and just leave it the way it is?
I think it should be one and done, and not because, like, I don't think it was, like, an interesting idea. I think it's just because, like, a live action adaptation probably wouldn't be good, and, like, I don't think you'd capture the same kind of feeling as, like, the old animation kind of style did. So, like, I think it's fine as is. Like, I don't think it's necessary to make anything new or, like, expand on it. It's also, like, where else would you go with it?
Yeah. I mean, if possessed houses are a possibility, then who knows what else could be out there. That's my logic. So, like,
I mean, yeah, you're right.
there could probably, in this universe, there's probably cryptids roaming around. And I know for a lot of the concept, instead of them going to Skull, they were supposed to go to the library, like a library, and pick out like an encyclopedia of monsters. And they're gonna flip through a whole bunch of different pages of other things. So, I mean, yeah, in a world where a possessed house is a complete reality, who knows? And that there could be cool stuff.
This could have been the prequel to Christine, the Stephen King movie.
Oh, yeah.
It released in 1983.
Oh my gosh.
It's all one big.
I need to see where Christine takes place, because if it takes place in Mayville, then there's something going on there.
And it's there.
And apparently a lot of this stuff in this movie is references to the Dark Tower, and that's Stephen King.
Oh my god.
It could be.
So many levels.
The connection. I mean, I don't have any of it confirmed because I need to get back to Gil and ask if he's read over the stuff, but I asked him a lot of reference questions because on a lot of the fan wikis, they're like, this is a direct reference to this and a bunch of other stuff. I'm like, is it really though?
Somebody tell me.
So I'm waiting, and I'd like to get a response from that. And also, this movie, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who did Back to the Future, and you know Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
So, is it like not a little bit weird that going from, you know, Jurassic Park and Back to the Future and everything, and then they just are like, let's make this weird animated movie.
Yeah, let's make the Monster Hills movie. I mean, like, you gotta take some downtime. I'm sure Jurassic Park was stressful.
That's true.
To make, you just gotta. No, I think it's kind of cool because it shows like a huge range of these directors. Like, you do these huge movies, and then you can make like these cult classics like Monster House.
I don't even think it's a cult classic. It's a classic to me at the very least. Maybe it'll hit cult status in the next decade.
That's what this podcast is for. We're trying to get it to cult status.
It's gonna be the Kamloops significant cultural piece. The only thing of importance to ever come from here.
Yep.
And crap, I was going somewhere with something regarding this. Oh, I mean, if Scott Pilgrim can be a cult classic and lose money in the box office, then I'm sure this one can do it because it made like almost double of what it cost. So, you know.
Oh, done. Easy.
We just need to
release it.
Yeah, get some directors to start advertising it again. Dan Harmon, he wrote for it. Get him in the big leagues. Tell him, hey, talk about this movie again, and then we'll do it.
Exactly.
I mean,
the reference in the Community movie.
Yes. For all we know, the Rick and Morty turning himself into a pickle could have just been a reference to this, where she turned herself into a house. It wasn't the funniest thing I've ever seen, but it was something I've seen, and that counts.
Something I saw.
Yep. So, the movie's pretty short as it is, but as you were watching it, were there any scenes that you're like, this doesn't really add anything, I wish they took it out, or were there any aspects you wish they expanded on a little bit more?
I don't think there was anything that they, like, I thought they should take out. Like, I think it all kind of flowed together fine. I definitely wish they spent more time inside the house, though. Because, like, it would have been cool to, like, just explore different rooms and, like, relate different rooms to different parts of the anatomy. I think, like, I mean, that's just, like, part of my science background of, like, I want to see, like, what's the bathroom?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's lower intestines. Like, is that what we're going for?
Yeah.
Like
Nevercracker was pooping and peeing in his wife all these years.
Ugh,
So,
disgusting.
You know. But yeah, no, I think that is a general consensus for a lot of people. More time inside the house because it looks so good.
Yeah, it looks so good, and like the atmosphere is super dope. So like, I'd love to just have spent more time exploring inside that.
Now, what do you think? If you had to take a guess, where do you think the furnace would have been in the house? Because it wasn't in the basement.
I guess in like the living room type deal, because like the chimney's off to one side of the house.
Yeah.
And they never went through like that left-hand door, so I'd assume that's like a living area. Is there an answer? Does the art book tell us?
No, I think there's some early drafts where the heart was where Constance's body was, and
okay, that makes sense.
Other drafts they're just like, we got rid of the furnace entirely and just had the Constance body, which is what we ended up with. I personally, it would have been cool if they actually used the furnace at all, because they mention it, but then you never see it.
It would have been cool to like see it, and even like when the kids had the water guns, they could have done nothing because like water gun's not going to put out a huge furnace.
True. But at least they got use out of them.
It's true. I didn't notice that they didn't actually show the furnace at any point until you said that, actually.
Yep. There's, I believe in like some of the promo art, it's like a side profile of the house, and you can see through like one of the top windows that the furnace might be up there. But that's such a weird spot for it. But it might be in the bedroom, which could make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, in the game, they focus a lot more on the inside of the house. So if you're looking to scratch that itch, The games exist, and they weren't actually that bad. They're like budget Resident Evil.
I was gonna say, like, they always kind of look like Resident Evil games just for kids.
Yeah, I mean, they do exist, and they go through a lot of weirder stuff than the movie does. So, now would there be anything that you would like changed, do you think? Not necessarily removed, but maybe moved around a little bit. The furnace being one of the things already.
The furnace being one of the things for sure. Like other than just exploring the house, like it didn't seem like they did much with it, just because it was like they're in the foyer, then they're in the basement. It was kind of all you got to see. And like obviously there's an upstairs. There could have been a house brain. That would have been cool to see.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about the house brain.
Just like I think they didn't do enough with that like interior setting. Like that's all I would like really shift of like just stay inside the house for like just slightly longer. So you set it all up as to be this like this is how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Then it all just changes.
Yeah, I would imagine a lot of the issue with spending a lot of time inside the house is potential worry of rating change. Because then you start wandering a little bit into like more of the horror territory, and in a lot of the early artwork draft, there was like pipes shooting out all over the place to make it look like veins, and like
that would be cool.
a lot of it sucks because so much of the artwork in this movie is actually really, really good, like weirdly good. It almost has no right to be as good as it is, but there's a whole lot they did, like having either an organic heart just like chilling in the basement with pipes shooting out all over the place, or the house just being like such a wreck on the inside and making it look more human-like. But a lot of that probably has to do either with budget or worrying about the rating, because
that would make sense. You gotta keep it well enough for the kids.
Yeah.
I think like a real human heart would have been like a little much.
Yeah, and I can imagine this movie probably would have flopped as a PG-13, but keeping it as PG works good enough that you can market it towards kids and still have it be like a little bit on the creepier side.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that's what they were going for. Like I don't think the idea was to have it be like this terrifying movie. It was just like, oh, this is a creepy Halloween movie.
Yeah. And they do nail that Halloween vibe as being a kid, like coming off of school and it's already orangey outside.
Oh, dude.
I don't know if you ever had that feeling. You're like, you dressed up and you go to school and you come home and it's already like getting ready for trick-or-treating and whatnot.
Oh yeah, of course, dude. I love Halloween. I was always ready for it.
Yeah, Halloween is like the best season. If only there was like a Halloween in summer. Good excuse to like dress up. I'd love that.
Just gotta start it.
Yes.
Start doing it. Somebody will start doing it.
When this pandemic and stuff is over, just a big costume party. There you go. I think that covers all the bases then.
Yeah, that's
for an early Halloween. And then if everything goes back to hell, then we have to skip Halloween. At least we sort of celebrated it beforehand.
At least we had summer Halloween.
Okay, so we've only got like a couple minutes left. The time flew by decently fast.
Yeah, okay.
What would you say your final rating for this is going to be? It can be on any scale. It can be as harsh as you want. And just, go for it.
I think going into it, I would have given it like a 2, just from like memory's sake. But I think having watched it again and like actually having sat down and enjoyed watching it, I want to say it's at least like a 3.5, if not a 4.
Okay.
I think 4 is a little high out of 5. But like it wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it. It's certainly not like a movie I'm gonna watch next week. But it wasn't bad. If somebody hasn't seen it, I'd be like, yeah, sure, watch it if you want. But if someone's like, oh, it's movie night, what are we watching? I'm not about to slap in Monster House.
Yeah, that's fair. So giving it the sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say giving it the 4 out of 10. What are some of its biggest ups and its biggest downs?
Oh, sorry. I was going on a scale of 5, so I'm gonna go like a 3.
Oh, I thought you were going out of 10. I'm like, man, that's pretty low, all things considered. But hey, okay, no. Wow, that's a really good rating. Wow, I think you've rated it the highest out of anyone so far.
Seriously?
Well, besides the people saying 10s, the people that haven't given it a 10, that's like, wow, I'm impressed. Your view really changed.
I really, because like it really wasn't that bad, and like a 3 out of 5 is like it's passable. It's 60%. It's not a terrible movie. It's not. It is definitely not the worst thing I've ever watched. Not even close. But like, no, it wasn't that bad. If like my little cousin was like, I want to watch Monster House, I wouldn't be like, no.
But yeah, going off of that, what are some of its major ups and its major downs?
Major ups are I think just the general vibe of it, like everything, like the scene, like the scene direction, the sound direction is all fantastic. Like everything looks really, really nice. The thing that really, really kills it for me is the characters, because I don't think the models look good, even if it was in full claymation. The humans just don't look good at all. The animation is really stiff on them as well. Like it's really just the characters that kind of bring it down the most for me.
That's fair.
Like I found it really distracting.
But do you think the characters, like, without how they look, were the characters interesting enough, do you think? Like, do you think the writing was okay?
Oh yeah, like writing direction I thought it was fine. Like I mean, it's a kids movie, so you got like the super brave badass girl, you got the dumb dude, and you got the normal dude. There's nothing wrong with the way they were written. They had a couple funny lines here and there. Like I don't think anything's wrong with that regard. It was definitely just like the art direction.
Yeah, that's super agreeable. If everything looked as good as the environments did, this movie would be like, beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's the 3.5 right there if they looked better.
But on the plus side, they absolutely nailed how the house looked. And I think that almost matters more in some places, because they killed it with the house in like every way.
Oh, most definitely. Like it was really, really well done, and just like I love the way everything like contorts and then folds back together. Like it just looks really, really nice.
It's the hardest thing they probably could have done to give expression, but it has more expression than any of the characters in the movie.
Straight up.
Which is really funny. They made an inanimate object that's huge somehow more, like, convey more emotion than any of, like, the actual human characters.
Its face moves more than anything else does, or
Yeah.
anyone else.
It's great. So we're getting into just the last little bit here. So, given a basis on your rating for this movie, what kind of animated movies, like, which are some that you really enjoy? Or even, it doesn't even have to be animated, I suppose. Any movies in general that you like.
Oh god, okay. Well, I'm gonna stick to animated because like I feel like it's too broad if I don't. I'm a big fan of like a lot of Disney Pixar stuff. Like How to Train Your Dragon, I think it's a gorgeous movie, and it's just really good. It's a really fun movie. Obviously, like Into the Spider-Verse, being a comic book fan, is like that movie's fantastic. In like art direction and writing and everything. Like I really enjoyed it. Yeah, like that. I mean, pick a top-selling Disney movie. Odds are I like it. It's hard to go wrong with Disney or Pixar.
Those are some really good choices.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And my mom mentioned that she's like, it reminds me of that movie with the man in the house, Up. And it's like this is like a parallel universe version of Up, where instead of the man like going on a journey with the house, he's stuck with it.
Yeah, the house. His wife dies, but in a much more tragic way.
And he's desperately trying to keep the Boy Scout or Girl Scout away from the house as much as possible.
Yeah, it's the polar opposite.
It could be like a heist movie with the Boy Scout trying to make his way into the house. But
that's the movie I want to see. I want to see a crossover.
So we're pretty much out of time here. And is there any final words that you'd like to say? Anything? No quotes? Anything exciting?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Oh.
Thanks for watching Monster House.
Yeah, I'm always glad to have people on. We're in the last couple days, so I'm kind of scraping the barrel for content at this point. But
I'm scraping the barrel. That's it. I see you're getting desperate. You're like, Carter.
No, I don't mean it in that way. But like.
No, of course not.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm really glad you came on. I was worried that you were gonna come on and you're gonna be like, man, that movie blew. It was the worst thing I've seen. And I was a little bit worried about that. But
oh god, no.
we're all good. No friendships are ending at this time.
Oh thank god.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming on, and everyone out there for listening. And I guess I'll be back here tomorrow with another episode. See you guys.